What up, y'all? Back at it again with another upload. This time with two players. I don't even fucking spectate every goddamn time. We got Soulgazer versus Adaam. This is a game, pretty big one on a couple levels. For one, the Bigs are currently up 6-1 versus the Tigers, and if Soulgazer takes this game, that would be a pretty big momentum swing for the Tigers in terms of pushing their way into playoffs contention. Whereas Adaam is a fairly, well, he's been established on the scene overall, quote unquote. But this is, in fact, his SPL debut, where their starting UU player, Harris is Awesome, was regrettably 0-5 prior to this point. So they've been having a bit of trouble, and they picked up Adaam at mids. Pretty solid player, and I know that he has the support of, Zachary and Harris. So everyone's sort of hoping for the best for this, whereas, Soulgazer, definitely not a bad player, but usually folks don't take as well to these, transplants, I guess one might say, especially considering that, I was going to say Impo, Adaam has that kind of, underdog quality to him. What with all that, and we see a pretty interesting tech from the Empoleon Ice Beam. Not something that we always catch just because people are very quick. I mean, Empoleon's just the biggest 4MMS type Pokemon, and ooh, nice. Okay. Honestly, a weird choice in my opinion. Either he was going to Drake into Empoleon, I guess as a means to set up an endgame, or like a better endgame from his Aerodactyl, because this is a pretty, this is about as good as you can get for bulky offense in terms of dealing with an arrow. You've got your Scizor, you got your Soft Check from Intimidate, you've got 2 Rock Resist, 1 has Intimidate itself. I mean, we have the dual Intimidate core going on. So it's a, strictly at matchup, it's pretty tough for SG, and of course the battery of Primarina Scizor is looking tough as hell to deal with. Yeah, like, the end game from Scizor is looking pretty fucking good. I would say as long as he keeps up the pressure, he doesn't allow Tentacruel to just, connive its way up in HP via Black Sludge and all that, but let's look at the broader scope of things. I feel as though Adaam is, at a glance, very much in advantage coming at the matchup. I think that, looking at it, we're probably going to be seeing pretty standard affair stuff. He hasn't shown what his Stealth Rock is, so that might mean that typically due to the constraints set on Empoleon via the 4MMS and the fact that he has shown Defog, Ice Beam, etc., I hesitate to assume or, anything that this will be a Stealth Rocking set. So this is probably Stealth Rock Croak Scarf Latias. I mean, it's possible that it's Scarf Scizor as well, just because teams like this, especially this one, because it's very oddly constructed in such a way that both the Steel and the Fairy are susceptible to the Z Electric Latias. It is possible that this is a Scarf Scizor, which has been gaining some traction, which would be a real shame, because if this is Calm Mind Latias as the win condition, it is much more unlikely that it will get its end game set up in the same way. It's just very unlikely that it will find the same opportunities that a Scizor would be granted here, particularly the SD Roost variant. And we see an SD from the Scizor, and ooh, that's a pretty fast Empoleon. Gets away with it though. And we're seeing the Life Orb variant. Ooh, Shucka! Nice! Okay, that's interesting. I'm always a fan of a cool tech on an Empoleon, and I guess this one I feel is more pertinent in the case of like a Nidoking or something like that, but it's always interesting to sort of feed into the, I guess, a bluff in order to secure safe Volt Switches from Manectric, but the outspeed I don't think Soulgazer saw coming, which is great for Adaam because now he is in the position to potentially go to Manectric here, but of course him getting down the Toxic Spike is going to have major implications there because Manectric is going to have a crucial role in the endgame here in setting up one of his win conditions, be it Scizor or Latias. We're not yet entirely certain. Again, I'm leaning more towards Scarf Scizor just because of the way that teams have been trending as of late. And this is going to be tough because it means that certain exchanges, such as the Gligar sneaking in on the Volt Switch potential angle, is now more punishable by the passive damage of Poison and having to predict. You know, even if you predict with the HP Ice, it comes at the consequence of taking more recoil from the Poison, which, if this is a Scarf Scizor again, might lend itself to a window for Soulgazer here. So putting it on that timer is definitely a great trade that Soulgazer took, and I wonder if it was worth considering more heavily for Adaam. That's lame. He gets to he does not get his chance to keep the fodder. I will explain that later, but I'm wondering if it was worth him trading his Empoleon there, because that Poison potentially can have some really major implications that I don't think he is going to be considering heavily enough. However, what I was going to say is that the loss in Hydreigon there is tough because it would have forced the Scizor to it would either force the Scizor to come in, the Latias to come in and click something. Ooh, okay, so he goes for the Arrow play. I guess this means to scout set, and 25 seems a bit high. I mean, we can't quite yet discern the Gligar spread. There's a potential of it being a little bit more Spadef invested for the purpose of electric types, specifically Manectric and Rotom H, who oftentimes will not use a move for Gligar, though that is... I think there is time for that in the span of this SPL to change, because Gligar has seen a huge rise in play in recent months. So I'm sort of expecting us to start seeing a bit more of, say, Will-O-Wisp, freaking Rotom H, even potentially HP Ice. But that's a bit more narrow and I think pacing oriented. But yeah, we do in fact see the Crocodile setting up Stealth Rocks, and this is going to be actually a bit of a pain. Like I said, if this is in fact... okay, so he makes the Scout there, going for the Protect to see if it is like a Tech Rage Crocodile, which is possible. The organization would have to be pretty precise in that... This would have to be a Scarf... not a Scarf Scizor. This would have to be an Iron Plate Scizor, or some other set that seeks to, in some way, shape, or form, feign a choice item, and the Scarf Latias. However, ooh, interesting. So Frustration is unique for sure. I guess it's... I would say there are... Well, I should preface by saying that the abandonment of Hyper Voice in general has been in service of Como, who has gotten a huge rise in popularity in recent months. But Frustration in particular is interesting to me, and I'm not entirely sure what it would target. I suppose, I would imagine certain SPDF-oriented pokes. Maybe the extra chip on Primarina was a big deal to him, because that is certainly noteworthy. But, golly, I'm unsure. Okay, but, Adaam does, in fact, choose to go for that, and it is an Iapapa Berry. Okay, so that probably, especially gauging from the way he's been playing his Scizor and wantonly clicking Bullet Punch in these situations, would indicate that this is in fact going to be the calm-minding Latias, which is problematic for certain insofar as being far less easy to get off the ground. I think that this is going to really set him back, and I don't agree with that Earthquake at all. That was 100% a knockoff, because if his goal, if he is playing to the end game of getting his Latias going, then he should have recognized the fact that Sylveon being needed to be at a certain amount of HP, that amount of HP being, rather recognizing that his Aerodactyl could afford to take a knockoff, and him still sort of have a way around this game, whereas if his Sylveon took an Earthquake there, he was far closer to getting endgamed by that Latias. So that's a tough one for sure. And oh no, I don't agree with that play at all. That is really I'm sorry, that's an atrocious pursuit, probably, because this Aerodactyl is manageable if he gets away with it, but if he what is punishing him so badly for going for a Bullet Punch there? Scizor dies in 2 and is forced to roost and predict the Manectric, where he still has the buffer of double Intimidate. He goes to Sylveon and dies. If he goes to Gligar, nothing on this team really cares about Gligar. You can afford to fodder off your Crook there, and that was really an atrocious pursuit. I'm sorry. I can understand the mindset of it, because you can, in this in-games, or in this scenario, you can feel as though you've been conditioning a player to make certain plays, but at the end of the day, that's just, I feel like a very bad judge of risk-reward. So we're going to have to see that come into play. And actually, I was neglecting to address the fact that Latias is in fact one of the targets that you may want to address with the use of Frustration over Moonblast. So it's sort of, I guess, a mid-ground between doing that and the other. But of course, it comes at the risk of thereafter becoming susceptible to Intimidate, which is omnipresent in the tier. Crocodile is fantastic, Manectric is pretty great and has been seeing a rise in usage, and the fact that he has both is just tremendously troublesome. That being said, I think that Soulgazer can still edge it out, just on the basis that he can heal on the Manectric. I think that his only shot at this point is going to Manectric, Volt switching on the Wish, and potentially risking HP on his Latias, getting that play right, then going back to Manectric and trying to sort of fish his way out of that mess through that angle. Point being, he would need to get off the multiple Intimidates and still not allow Soulgazer the opportunity to neutralize those by, say, Wish protecting, going to Gligar, getting it back in at 88, which I believe is still enough to take a Gigavolt Havoc. So I think that's his best angle here. I think that even then, though, it's probably yeah, nothing doing because he, yeah, goes to Gligar there. That is a smart addressment of what he's got going on, especially if he's U-turn, which he does, and he can just go back to Sylveon there. So I think Soulgazer takes this one, yeah. That's tough. The turn where he tried for the pursuit there really was crucial, and I think really was a tough call, but nonetheless, I feel as though he played it rather well for the most part. It wasn't anything outstanding, but he still exhibited a pretty firm understanding of it. It just was like, again, it's this quality that I always harken back to, where it's the difference between good and great. Like, there's a very reactionary tone, and there's some good prep, and there's things that you can acknowledge, but at the end of the day, Soulgazer exhibited a better understanding of how to close out a game, and I think that that's what is more valuable in the grand scheme of things. So hopefully Adaam can bounce back from this. I've been, maybe silently rooting for the Tigers U slot, because I feel like there's been a lot of potential, going in and out of that area, and of course Sakura is a great support to have for that kind of thing. Oh, whoops. So I hope that they manage to level out, but in the meantime, congrats to the Bigs, because that is definitely a big win for them, and I will catch you on the next one. Thank you for watching, guys.